Welcome back, everyone, to the Anatomy of the Trade. Today is February 18th, and this is the episode with the market update. The market has been very interesting, so we just wanted to make sure that you guys are on top of what's going on, and periodically we just would do those type of episodes. So, Franz, what do you think about the structure of the market where we are? What are your thoughts?
When we talk about uptrends, we talk about different sort of stages that an uptrend goes through. So there are three different stages that you've sort of helped us to get a grasp of. The first is the momentum stage. And I think if we look at this overall uptrend since March, we can see where that occurred off the bottom. The next is a vertical absorption, which is defined by profit taking, by kind of mean reversion trades, by individual investors, particularly institutional investors, recognizing that there's sort of there's a central tendency in the trend, and when we get stretched above that, they're going to take profits. When we pull back into the kind of the undervalued portion of it, they're going to be putting their positions back on. And then the last stage, number three, is the speculative stage, where everybody kind of recognizes what's going on and says, oh, I'm not in, get me in. And it's the final kind of la land where everybody's making money temporarily. The weak hands are jumping in, the strong hands are selling to them, and then that's sort of the end of the situation. So where are we now? And that's the big question. And it looks like we're still sort of in this vertical absorption, and as you've outlined it on the chart, you sort of got us right at the mean of the of the total channel. And go, that's based, and you're probably the person best equipped to answer that. So what do you think?
Well, I really like the direction that you took with that question. So let's definitely go through this. So momentum is going to be associated with kind of like this big rally off the bottom, because it's going to have a lot of like big spread type of days, a lot of movement to the upside. And when we look at this first leg, we could say, yeah, exactly, we're seeing this. And that came off the bottom of the trading range that is on the intraday. It has a lot of volatility. So a lot of cause building in that trading range. Now, we could say that this area right here has elements of vertical absorption where there is some profit taking, profit taking, profit taking, profit taking. And you could even divide this into much smaller segments. So for instance, one as this whole range, then two as kind of this upsloping structure, and then three, so the waves within the waves. And then the third one here would be this one. And then we could say that this concludes a much larger first initial momentum wave. So this whole thing is the first wave up as the momentum wave. Then we go into a break and consolidation, and then we go into the second phase. And this is where we are starting to see a lot of the doubts about the overbought condition of the market. And every time the market goes up, there is some selling, there is some local supply that comes into this picture. And this whole wave, since this low also could be divided into momentum, vertical absorption, and speculation, we could say, okay, wave number one, wave number two, and characteristics are very well shown here. So momentum, profit taking, vertical absorption, and then perhaps we are in the speculative wave of the much larger degree vertical absorption. Does that make sense, Franz?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so what would we be expecting here? That's the question. So we need to conclude this speculative phase, the smallest speculative phase in the vertical absorption of the larger magnitude. So with speculation, we usually have some kind of like free move to the upside. Look at it right here, right? So such a great move, and it just goes up, goes up, goes up. Kind of reminds me a little bit of this area right here. So could we do that? Could we continue with the move to the upside? But also resolution of the speculation is very visible. You're usually going to have, quite a lot of supply coming in. So if we would be thinking that this was the smallest speculative way on the way up, look at this, look at this. And so we still don't have that. We either need to have that, substantial supply coming in and ending this speculation, or we still need to speculate on the way up into, let's say, 4,000 range on the S&P. So these are kind of like the two scenarios that I'm looking at. And then from the tape reading point of view, Franz, what do you see here? Let's say off this bottom here, if you could read to us what's going on here.
Okay. Initially, we have a emergence of supply that is absorbed, and we can see that on that first reversal bar off of the low there, where the stopping action has been able to take care of the supply being presented. We then have on declining volume, and this is a daily chart here. So on declining volume, we do reach an area of a new high, which then attracts some additional supply. But that supply has virtually no effect whatsoever. I mean, just, look at effort versus result. There's just nothing there. After that, demand then again attempts to get this going, but demand is weak. It's a little stronger than the very last couple of bars on the uptrend, but it's still not at the level that we saw when we took off. So I think the interpretation, and then we also see that supply comes back in. So there's some loss of momentum here, but it looks like it's absorption. It looks like, if you were to draw a line across the top of where you've got the M there at the top,
right here.
Yeah, right there. It looks like we've got, people would say, well, that's an upthrust, but it's not really. It's more like, attempting to move higher, and then just there's still supply. Obviously, the supply is being absorbed, and we're probably going to be in a little bit of a trading range here, continuing until whatever supply is left before we can have, this sort of final, fun run in our speculative stage. Before that can happen, it looks like we've still got supply, but it doesn't look threatening to me.
Well, what do you think about today's bar as we're recording?
Okay, looking at and this we're only halfway through.
Yeah,
the day,
we're only at the half of the session. So assuming that the volume is going to increase,
we do have, where are we going to end up as far as selling? Well, so far we've got a little bit of demand tail coming in, so at the support, but it is a lower, right now we are a lower, so it looks like we're in a bit of a downtrend here, but it doesn't look threatening at this point. It looks as though, again, effort versus result, there's demand behind this selling that we're seeing that's preventing, because if you go over to like the 1st of February or the end of January actually, and look at that big down bar, that's more the kind of supply and the kind of result that we would expect if we had a significant amount of supply coming in. So
Yeah. Well, I'm glad
that's what
that
I'm saying.
you're noticing those things, and actually, your analysis was really good. Um,
Thanks.
what also I'm going to add to this is think in terms of how institutions buy, right? So, for instance, they came here and they sold somebody, to profit. So, what happens afterwards? Well, the price did not go lower. I mean, yes, on that particular day, there was this substantial supply tail, which indicated selling. But after that, nothing has happened. So there was an absorption around this area on a couple of bars, maybe this one as well. And then look at how the volume signature is so flat. So that indicates absorption on its own, and absorption suggests continuation to the upside. So if we would look at this latest reaction, we would see that they were buying here, 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 and then they kind of stopped, or they stopped aggressive buying, right? So they loaded up, and then the price goes up on its own. And then occasionally it will start exhibiting some supply characteristics, like on this bar right here, on this bar right here, and today as well. So what do you do with that? The main question here is that, well, first of all, when momentum slows down, we probably would be thinking that the price would come back to the area either of the breakout or either of the last substantial aggressive buying by institutions. Because as the price comes back, they see the value and then they buy it again. And that's how the trend sustains itself. And that's how the trend goes into the short-term oversold conditions where it shows weakness and then it recovers on that buying because of that value. So Franz is absolutely correct when we are assessing these bars. Until we see something like this, we should be still in the mindset of an uptrend. So therefore, today's day is not finished, so we still have to see what kind of result. But if it was to be finished like this, then we would say, yeah, supply has come, and yet we don't have a continuation or commitment to the downside, which is still obviously should be interpreted as bullish until the notice of the supply. Something like this, something like this, something like this. So a couple of scenarios. Let's talk about scenarios. So we've talked about vertical absorption. So this was absorption on the way down, slightly on the way up, momentum diminishes, and then that usually brings us either back into this zone right here and then recovery for here, or we just basically consolidating here for some time before continuation to the upside. So with that, let's look also at the analog that I want us to look at. So this was presented yesterday in the WMD class. So I'm going to go really fast here. Let's just do this fast. We are comparing 2008, 2009 low and then subsequent move up to the 2020, 2021. You will be maybe surprised that I'm using different time frames. So this is a daily chart and this is a 3-hour chart, so half a day. But I don't want you to think about, the time frame. I'm just indicating that this is what's happening here. I want you to think more about the structure itself. So 2008, 2009, downslope in lower lows, lower highs, trading range. We have the same in 2020. Then the first leg up, momentum, vertical absorption, speculation. Momentum, vertical absorption, speculation. So this is the initial move to the upside. And please note that in 2020, this is a much stronger move than in 2008. And obviously everything happens much faster because recovery is much faster. Then first, profit taking and first rotation, and that rotation is from the large caps that were acting as the flight to quality stocks into the COVID low, than anything else. So there is rotation out of that. And again, because we have a stronger recovery in 2020, the climactic run here as the next wave up is a little bit more extended than in 2011 already. Move down, another meaningful profit taking in rotation. And we're experiencing the same here. A little bit different structure here, but if you would connect the lows and the highs, that would make a lot of sense. And then we get out of this formation. So on a sign of strength, here, you could also think that this is a sign of strength. This is so multiple signs of strength here on the way up. And then we kind of go into this choppy overbought rally. So this is, as I recall, was the time when everybody was saying, we are overbought, we are overbought, we are overbought. So we are expecting a reaction, and reaction doesn't come. Does that sound familiar to what we're experiencing right now? Where, all we're hearing is, the call put ratios is, in the overbought condition. The breadth indicators are in the overbought condition, and yet after each decline, which a lot of the traders interpret as the beginning of some kind of big distributional formation, they still recover. So, and that's kind of the key here in this movement, in this vertical absorption. Some profit taken, but yet somebody's buying. And then that usually resolves itself in the move to the downside that has the increased supply characteristics. And after that, there is this vertical absorption and recovery above the high. So I'm going to erase everything and let's just see where we are. So in 2015, as we go into this new high after this reaction, like we did here, we just stayed and consolidate. And during this consolidation, we're going to have like bars that we have like today, the ones that are going to show some supply coming in, and then just recovery, 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 and trading range forming. And then obviously, we had a much more substantial trading range and then much more substantial reaccumulation that started with the shakeout. So I'm expecting that in this year, we are going to have some kind of, let's say, structure where we sharply go down in maybe like 3 to 5 days. And that is a sharp profit taken. So we should just time this, and we should also understand this cyclicality of this type of the reaction. This would be just a cyclical low in the secular uptrend, suggesting continuation after that. And obviously, we would need to form some kind of structure here. That would be obviously Wyckoff in the sense of how the stopping action happens, how the test in phase C happens, and so on and so forth. So, and again, as we usually say, and Franz brought it up at the beginning of the session, analogs work until they don't. And I really, really love this TA expression. So this analog might fail, and we might be interpreting the structure incorrectly. We should be ready for that as well. But if it's going to unfold the way how it's going to kind of like showing us, on this picture, then we should take a note. And we should be thinking about, a possibility of this type of sharp reaction right here that's going to lead into a trading range. Franz, your final thoughts on this?
Well, human nature and human behavior doesn't change, and that's the reason we have these patterns. But so we have a certain kind of expectation, but we don't want to obviously base our trading decisions on that. We want to base our trading decisions on what the market itself is actually telling us. But at least this gives us a template to think about in terms of some different possibilities that can be occurring. And so far, it's playing out.
Right. Okay, guys. Well, that's it for today's market update. Happy trading, and until next episode.
Thanks, Ramon.